Hello, Mehdi Riazi again. In this short video, I'm going to explain in general terms three approaches to research, which I hope you find useful. So my today's goal is to familiarize you with three approaches to research, including quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods research. Indeed, any of these approaches to research needs further discussion, but I hope that this short video will help you to understand some general features and characteristics of these three approaches to research. So basically, quantitative approach to research, as the name indicates, enable researchers to quantify the intended qualities through different measurement skills and perform some statistical analysis on the quantified features and to make inferences or conclusions, usually for generalization or prediction purposes. So in quantitative research, researchers basically work with numbers and the manipulation of those numbers through a statistical analysis, and then making inferences and conclusions based on the outcomes of the statistical tests. How do we do that? Usually, in quantitative research, we need to identify and define a target population. A target population is a collection of potential members that could be people, could be objects or other elements that we would like to know about them, and we would like to make general statements about them. Since it's usually very difficult to study the whole population, what researchers do is that they select a sample from that target population, and this sample needs to be representative so that when we make generalizations, this is something that we are allowed to do. Otherwise, if the sample is not representative, then making generalizations or predictions might not be plausible. Once we recruit a sample from the target population, then the next step is to collect data. Again, using some instruments, but two common instruments are questionnaires or tests or other tools that we can use in order to quantify the variables that we are interested in. And then by analyzing these quantitative data, we try to make inferences about the target population. And this is done usually through two types of statistics. One is called descriptive statistics, and the other is called inferential statistics. In descriptive statistics, we are mostly concerned about the sample characteristics, and usually two types of statistics are called in and are worked with. One is referred to as measures of central tendency, like mode, median, and mean. And the other one is measures of dispersion or variability, like range, variance, and standard deviation. Once we have these statistics, which are the descriptive or characteristics of the sample, then we can use them for inferential statistics. What usually is done through inferential statistics is that these sample statistics are used to calculate population parameters because we don't have access to the population. And then through using some tests of significance, we try to make inferences about the target population and making generalizations about the target population. So if we look at our figure, which shows the process of doing quantitative research, we can see the place of descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. At the level of the sample, we are mostly concerned about and we calculate descriptive statistics. And at the level of inferential statistics, we are going to calculate population parameters and making inferences about the target population through a statistical test of significance. Some key terms used in the description of quantitative approach to research are theory-driven, because usually quantitative research starts with a theory. The other key concept is hypothesis testing, because quantitative researchers are interested to test hypotheses related to the theory that informs their research. It is also called top-down or deductive, because researchers start with a more general theory and then they try to test specific hypotheses related to that theory. So it's from general to specific. And as I indicated before, the main aim is generalization and prediction about target and similar populations. Some examples of quantitative methods are survey research and experimental designs, which will be discussed further in future videos. The second approach to research is usually called qualitative approach to research. And again, as the name indicates, in qualitative research, researchers are interested in qualitative data, which is usually verbal and narrative data, and could be collected through interviews, for example, with participants, asking them for verbal reports, think aloud protocols, for example, diaries or self-reports, and any other type of narrative qualitative data that could be collected from the participants. Sometimes text would also considered as qualitative data as well. So what researchers do is that they collect qualitative data and then they use qualitative approaches to data analysis. And some key terms usually used in qualitative approach to research are data-driven, because usually qualitative researchers do not start with a dominant theory or theoretical framework. They try to analyze the data, and therefore rather than testing hypotheses, they aim at generating hypothetical explanations about the phenomenon under study and the object of the study. As such, qualitative research is also called bottom-up or inductive, because it moves from specific data to more generalizations, or producing more general and hypothetical explanations about the phenomenon under study. And the aim of qualitative research, in contrast to quantitative research, is understanding small cases, and so there is no intention for generalization or prediction. Some examples of qualitative methods, the word is quantitative here, should be changed to qualitative methods, are case study and ethnography, as well as narrative inquiry and discourse analysis. The third approach to research is called mixed method research, or as abbreviated MMR. Because each of the two research approaches, quantitative and qualitative, have their own strengths but also their own weaknesses. In mixed method research, researchers attempt to mix methods from the two previous approaches to produce more comprehensive inferences and to account for potential weaknesses in our understanding of different phenomena. In mixed method approach to research, we usually rely on both quantitative and qualitative data and analysis. Mixed method research approach, like the other two previous approaches, have some key terms and key concepts. Because it's a mix of methods from the two approaches, therefore it's both theory and data-driven. It aims at both hypothesis generating and hypothesis testing, and it uses abductive logic, which is a back and forth movement between a deductive and inductive approach. And it aims at presenting more comprehensive explanations about research phenomena. The following notation system is usually used to define different MMR designs. Upper and lowercase letters are used to show the paradigm emphasis. So when we use capital letters, it shows that more emphasis is on either quantitative or qualitative. And when we use lowercase letters, it means that that component is not as dominant as the other one. Also, plus sign is used to show concurrent designs, meaning that both quantitative and qualitative data are collected at the same time, whereas arrow sign is used to show sequential designs, meaning completing one strand and then building up the other strand on the results of the previous one in a sequential way. So these are some examples of MMR designs that you can see. We have, for example, the first design, both qual and quan, as a concurrent mixed methods design. This represents a type of mixed methods research design in that both qualitative and quantitative methods are equal in terms of emphasis, meaning that the same amount of data and analysis will be collected and then presented in the research report. Whereas in the second and the third one, as you can see, more emphasis is put on one specific method and less emphasis on the other one. An example of a quan plus qual is that, for example, when a researcher conducts a survey, a questionnaire survey, so the main emphasis in collecting data from a larger sample, but then selects a subsample of the main study for some interviews. So this is an example of quan with capital letter plus qual with lower letters, lowercase letters. And examples of sequential mixed method research, you can see again that we can have either qual or quan as the dominant paradigm, and then conducting one as the first in the first strand, and then analyzing the data and then developing a second phase of a study using the other method from the other research approach. So I hope that this general discussion of the three approaches to research gives you some ideas about how these three approaches to research are different from each other, but we need to discuss further details of any of these three approaches to research.